All right, so we've learned about case writing, we've learned about rebuttals, we've learned about cross-examination. So now the one thing that really we have left to learn is delivery. And when I say delivery, I mean your vocal delivery, as in how you speak, how you move in the round, how you act, how you come off. So not so much as the content, as in how the content is delivered. So there's really 5 main things with delivery. Speak slowly, loudly, clearly, calmly, and confidently. So those are the 5 things we're going to go over. Those are the 5 main things really that all you need to do for delivery. So let's look at the first thing. Go slow. This is very, very important. And this is probably one of the most fundamental problems that new debaters have. I still have a problem with speaking quickly. Maybe you've noticed. Hopefully I haven't spoken too quickly in these videos for you. But I have a problem with speaking quickly. And the problem is when you're in a debate round and you're standing in front of the judge and the timer and your opponent, people, some of them get nervous, some of them get excited, they get caught up in the moment, they're scared because it's their first time debating. They go really fast. They start speaking really fast. And this becomes a huge problem because they're speaking way too fast. And it's like point after point after point. And the judge is overwhelmed, your opponent is overwhelmed, and no one can understand what you're saying. So go slow. Actually, when you're in a debate, somehow, you sound fine to yourself, but in reality, you're going too fast. And then you slow down, and you sound like you're going way too slow to yourself, but in reality, you're going at the perfect speed. And everyone else is like, that was the perfect speed. And you say, I thought that was way too slow. And they said, no, if anything, you can go even slower. So go slowly. You want to speak slowly, even slower than I'm speaking right now. Yeah. The second thing, you want to speak loudly. This is another big problem with new debaters. Sometimes they're shy, they're nervous. What happens? They start speaking quietly. They start mumbling. Problem? Nobody can hear you. It's no good preparing, working hard, doing this course, and coming up with 2 great cases and all these great cross-ex questions and all these great rebuttal arguments and working so hard and preparing all this stuff only to get to the round and lose because the judge can't hear what you're saying. So you want to speak loudly. Speak loudly. Your voice should fill the room. You're going to be in a room. Your voice should fill the room. You should speak loudly. If you tend to be a quiet person, err on the louder side. Just in general, speak loudly. Not too loudly. You don't want to be screaming at the judge, of course, but speak loudly, like you're giving a speech at some sort of convention or something to a big audience. And a similar note: speak clearly. Speak clearly and enunciate. You can speak loudly, but if you're mumbling or I can't hear you for some reason because you aren't speaking clearly, this is still a huge problem because I still can't understand what you're saying. And again, you've paid $45 for this course, you've gone through the course, you prepared your cases, you worked hard, and you lose the round because the judge can't hear what you're saying. That's really a shame. So speak clearly and enunciate. And this also pay attention to the way your voice sounds. Make your voice sound good and put effort into your voice. You don't want to make your voice like croak like this. You don't want your voice to sound something like that. You want your voice to sound very professional. All right. The fourth thing, you want to speak calmly. You don't want to have any distracting mannerisms. You want to be calm and collective. Don't come off as nervous. A writer for Ethos Debate, which I've been having you read throughout this course, they put it very well, and maybe I'll put a link to the article on the webpage, but this one writer, she said, quote, "Don't shuffle papers, don't shift your feet, don't flutter your hands, don't play with your hair, don't fiddle with a pen, don't pick up your notes and put them down, don't rearrange your evidence again. Instead, slow down, use calm, purposeful gestures," end quote. And this is exactly what I'm saying. Don't come off as nervous, just be really, really calm. If you need to, say a prayer before the round. In fact, I usually do that. I find that helps a lot. And then go ahead and just be calm and collective and confident. Which leads me to the last thing. You want to have confidence. You want to speak confidently. Again, as I said in the cross-examination video, and it applies to the whole round, act like you're doing great even if you're not. What my dad says is fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. Fake it until you make it to the award ceremony and you get some kind of award. Anyway, have confidence. You need to have confidence too in your arguments. Confidence that your ideas are good and that you should argue them. And if you have confidence in your arguments, it'll come off in your delivery. It's also very important to be confident because, as I said in cross-examination, some judges don't understand what's going on, unfortunately. That's the reality. Some judges don't understand what's going on, and they're just watching you, but they don't understand what you're saying. Maybe they're new, maybe they just don't understand for whatever reason. Maybe both you and your opponent are confusing, but some judges just look at you and don't understand what you're saying, but they do see how you act. And many a round has been won due to one debater having more confidence than the other. Because if one debater has a lot of confidence and the judge doesn't know what's going on, the judge, all they see is that confidence. And they say, that person's acting really confident, that must mean they're doing well. Even if you're not doing well. So just act confident. If you don't act confident and you start showing that you're not confident anymore, the judge is going to say, oh, that person looks like they're not doing as well. They're giving me the impression they're not winning. I'm going to vote for their opponent. So you don't want to do that. Many a round has been won due to confidence. I have ballots where my opponent won because he was more confident than I was, and that's how I learned this lesson. Like the sole reason that they voted for the opponent was because the opponent was more confident than me. So many a round has been won off of confidence. Going on, I'm going to go on and on about confidence a little because it's very important and widespread. There are many ways you can be confident. Another way I want you to be confident to show in your delivery, don't be afraid of making stupid arguments in your rebuttal speeches. This is very common among new debaters. They don't know if they have good ideas or if what they're saying is really a good argument. Don't be afraid of that right now. Right now, your problem probably isn't that you're making arguments that are stupid. As a new debater, your problem is that you think your arguments are stupid, so you hold them back, you don't run them, and you lose. When in reality, they're good arguments that should be argued. So you have to, another thing my dad says is go big or go home. Just put everything out there, and even if you think it's stupid, just run it anyway. Just put everything on the table. Don't be afraid to run an argument because you're afraid it won't work. Run your arguments like they're the most important arguments in the world. So just run your arguments and have confidence in those arguments. The second area where also, or not the second area, but another area where you should have confidence, again, is cross-examination, especially when you're asking questions. And I put this in this section because it has to do more with delivery, whereas the last section was about the content in cross-examination. But delivery with cross-examination, you don't want to be super aggressive, but you do want to be a little aggressive when you're asking cross-ex questions. Mainly, don't give up too easily. And I've seen this with some new debaters. As soon as their opponent even remotely points out some little flaw in their questioning and their argumentation, they automatically just assume that the opponent is right and that the person asking questions, that they're wrong and that their idea isn't going to fly. So as soon as, if I'm asking questions of someone over here, as soon as Bob points out some little flaw in my questioning, I automatically just drop it and assume it isn't going to fly, and I move on and I assume that Bob is right. But I actually shouldn't do that. I have to have confidence that I am right, even if my opponent doesn't seem to think I'm right. Of course the opponent doesn't think I'm right. He's my opponent. His job is to disagree with me. Just because he disagrees with me, though, doesn't mean he's wrong. He's biased. He's trying to win the round. So the questions you're asking in cross-examination might even be good. Don't give up on them just because your opponent starts to disagree with you or tries to wiggle his or her way out of your trail of questioning. Don't let him leave that easily. Don't give up that easily, and don't let him win so easily. As one example, say that you ask your opponent, say that I ask the person over here, my opponent. If there's one person in your nation and there's 500 people in another nation and everyone's in danger and you can only choose one nation to save, so you can either save the person in your nation or the 500 people in another nation, who would you choose to save? Your opponent might say, well, that's a really extreme example, so you might try to destroy your trail of questioning like that. I don't have to drop the whole thing and give up assuming that they've spiked my argument and the whole thing's over because, oh no, my questioning is extreme, I was wrong, I can't use that anymore. No, I need to hold on to my original argument and keep pushing my opponent. I have to force them to answer the question. I can say something like, okay, sure, but if something like this did happen, what would you do? It's okay to be a little aggressive as long as you always remain kind and polite and respectful towards your opponent. And even if one of your points is defeated and your opponent destroys your argument during cross-examination, again, don't let the audience or judge know that your opponent just spiked a hole in your argument. And this is very common. I've seen this. Sometimes when when an opponent destroys someone's cross-ex question, they just look kind of, the person whose question was destroyed, they kind of pause and they say, okay, in a really defeated voice with this resigned look on their face. And they shouldn't do that. You have to cover it up, act like everything is fine and nothing is wrong. Because the impressions you leave on the judge are just as important as the arguments themselves. Because again, some judges go off only the impressions, unfortunately. And if you give the impression your argument's bad, the judge will start to think it's bad. So you have to have the confidence to cling tightly to your position. Now, of course, you don't want to have too much confidence to the point where you say something ridiculous like it's okay for Kim Jong-un to rule the world or something. Of course, not that. But you do want to have confidence in your arguments. So slowly, loudly, clearly, calmly, confidently. Those are the 5 important things you need to remember for delivery. And delivery is important because the way you say things are almost as important as the things you're actually saying.